Welcome to the show, y'all. Hope everybody out there is having an awesome day. We have a lot of stuff to jump into today, so in just a second, the red states are honestly completely collapsing under Trump's policies. We have a big write-up in the New York Times about Iowa, and it really lays out how his policies have been just an absolute catastrophe for basically not just Iowa, but a bunch of red states. So we're going to talk about that. We also have billionaires are completely desperate to try to stop Zoran Mamdani. The last-minute smear attempts are failing spectacularly. I can't wait to detail that for you. We also have the truth about Trump's illegal war on Venezuela has come out. People are now discussing the reality of the situation. We have some news outlets telling the truth. We'll also get to Mike Johnson, apparently behind the scenes, is brutally mocked by the White House and Trump himself. So the little cuck boy is now crowned as the little cuck boy among everybody in power, and that's a hilarious thing to behold. And then later on, we have a bombshell story about how the White House is supporting ISIS warlords on the ground in Gaza, of course, to help Israel complete the ethnic cleansing and the genocide. And Kamala Harris says she may run for president again. She may run again. So we have all that and more. You guys know the drill. Everybody, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you absolutely nothing. You could also go subscribe to the Corin's World YouTube channel where we do live Kyle and Corin episodes. We try to do them every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also sign up for Substack for Crystal Kyle and Friends. That link is below as well. We got a bunch of great interviews coming up, including next week with an expert, or this week, I should say, with an expert who's been detailing exactly how Trump is trying to steal the 2026 midterms and the 2028 election. And then also, of course, thank you to everybody who supports the show on Patreon. We literally could not do without you. You guys make it possible. That link is below if you'd like to help out. $2 a month goes a long way. $5 a month goes a long way. Remember, guys, this is real independent media. I've never had a conversation with an advertiser, never done an ad read, never talked to a billionaire or a PAC or a government or anything like that. And you guys made that possible. We are one of very few outlets that gets to say and mean it that we are real independent media. So thank you again if you support the show from the bottom of my heart. And also thank you to everybody who tips on YouTube. There's a thanks button below. I really appreciate all the support there as well. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the red states are not exempt from being clobbered by Trump's policies. Now, the other day, we talked about how $27 billion has been withheld from the blue states. So this is federal tax money that by law has to go to blue states. And Trump said, I'm going to hold this back because fuck them, basically. There was only less than $1 billion, $700 million that's been withheld from red states. Okay, so that right there would seem to indicate, well, Trump's going softer on the red states, and so they have it easier. But here's the problem. His broader economic policies are just absolutely eviscerating these states. So let me walk you through it here. Let's start. There was a big article in the New York Times about this. Look at this. Since siding with Barack Obama twice, Iowa has become a stronghold for Mr. Trump. Yet perhaps no state has struggled more with his economic policies. During the first quarter of 2025, Iowa's gross domestic product dropped by 6.1%, more than any other state aside from neighboring Nebraska, also super red state. Manufacturing, which drives 17% of Iowa's economic output, has been hit with higher production costs, in part because of steep tariffs on inputs like aluminum and steel. Meatpacking plants, which help make Iowa the nation's leading pork producer, rely heavily on foreign-born workers, hundreds of thousands of whom saw their legal status stripped away by the president. Mr. Trump's war on renewable energy also threatens the wind industry that produces more than half of Iowa's electricity. So on issue after issue, just getting absolutely clobbered and slaughtered. So stop and think about this. The state that was hardest hit by the tariffs to this point, Texas. Kentucky, another red state, 75,000 farms directly threatened by the tariffs. 95% of the bourbon market threatened by the tariffs. They are the hardest hit when it comes to hospital closures. We have a minimum of 300 rural hospitals that are going to shut down in this country. Could be as high as 742 because of Trump's cuts to Medicaid. The worst of that hits the red state of Kentucky. Kansas, USAID cuts, which were done by Elon and Doge, devastated the crop exports in Kansas, another deep red state. Nebraska, similar to Iowa, beef and pork industries got absolutely obliterated because they lost their workers in the anti-immigrant crackdown. So all of these red states are absolutely hemorrhaging right now, bro. They are hemorrhaging right now. So this is a huge, huge deal, but I do have more for you. So now let's switch to this. Now, Maine is not necessarily a red state. It's, a bit of a mixed bag over there in Maine. I believe at the presidential level, they voted Democrat for a while, but at the more state and local level, it's a little bit of a different story. They're one of the very rural states that's in the Northeast. But let me walk you through this. This is the impact of two things. Number one, climate change. And number two, Trump's policies and his tariffs and how it's impacting the lobster market. Watch this.
We're worried about the prices going down. The Chinese have made it aware that they're not willing to absorb the cost.
What if I told you that America's lobster industry, once the beating heart of Maine's coastal identity, is collapsing, while Canada enjoys billion-dollar success stories in Europe and Asia? On August 29, 2025, the numbers are brutal. Canadian lobsters now dominate 76% of China's live lobster trade compared to just 25% for the United States. In Europe, tariffs from the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, better known as CETA, ensure that Canadian lobster enters markets tariff-free, while American lobster from Maine remains subject to duties of up to 8%. That small difference in cost reshaped the industry. French restaurants in Paris and Madrid changed menus almost overnight, switching from Maine lobster to homered Canadian. German wholesalers explained that when orders stretch into thousands of pounds, the savings are decisive. The impact was immediate. Canadian exporters saw contracts signed at record levels, while U.S. shipments piled up unsold. The story goes deeper than trade agreements. For families in Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, Ottawa's trade diplomacy delivered a lifeline that transformed small fishing villages. Lobster pounds filled up, export firms grew, and small and medium enterprises thrived. According to Canada's Trade Ministry, more than 600 SME seafood exporters expanded into new European markets within 3 years of CETA's launch. For many of them, the deal meant the difference between survival and growth. Mayors across Atlantic Canada called it a turning point. It was like Ottawa handed us the keys to Europe, said Pam Mood, mayor of Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Meanwhile, in Maine, the collapse of the European market cut much deeper than numbers. Generations who passed down boats, traps, and knowledge suddenly saw their heritage undervalued. We are not losing because our lobster is worse. We are losing because Canada outsmarted us in trade. Diplomacy, said John Hathaway, CEO of Shucks Maine Lobster. The pain did not stop with Europe. Canada's accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, opened new doors in Asia. Japan, Vietnam, and Malaysia all embraced Canadian lobster as a luxury product tied to culture and celebration. Tokyo sushi bars and Hanoi fine dining establishments began presenting Canadian lobster as the prestige option. By 2025, Japan alone imported more than $250 million worth of Canadian lobster, according to the Japanese Ministry of Finance.
One of the main reasons here that this is happening is because of climate change. The water by Maine, off the coast of Maine, has gotten warmer, so lobsters have tried to move north to get more cool water off the coast of Canada. So that's one thing that's happening. The other thing that's happening is the tariffs made it so now Maine is getting hammered and Canada has picked up the slack with international markets. So this is a direct impact of Trump policies and Republican policies more broadly, because of course they don't believe in climate change and they act as if it's not real when the real world impacts of climate change are actually hitting everybody right now and smacking us across the face. All right, more. So we still have this government shutdown going on. The USDA under Trump has come out and said that it will not tap emergency funds for food stamps, leaving 40 million set to lose aid this week that I'm talking to you now, this week. So 40 million families are going to be hit really fucking hard on the brink of starvation. Will probably need to go to food banks and desperately try to get by. More on food banks in a minute, because I have an important point on that one. But this is the USDA under Trump saying we're not going to view this as the emergency that it is, and we're not going to pay out on the food stamps. Okay, ready for this? So as Micah points out here, the White House now claims it's illegally barred from using emergency funds to keep SNAP running. SNAP is the food stamp program. Journalists discovered that this directly contradicts the USDA's publicly released shutdown plan, which is below here. The White House wants to end SNAP and is lying to protect themselves. So in layman's terms, the White House is going, oh, well, it's illegal for us to pay out on the food stamps. Meanwhile, the opposite is true. Even during a government shutdown, it's perfectly legal to pay out on the food stamps because, having your countrymen not starve is viewed as a vital necessity in what's supposed to be a civilized country. But Trump doesn't like the program. Republicans don't like the program. So they're saying, fuck off. We're not paying. So now you have, by the way, about 40% of the people on SNAP, on food stamps, it's children. They're telling American kids to starve. That's what they're doing. Thousands of furloughed federal workers lined up in Maryland today to get food. Remember the last time we saw something like this? Trump was president then too, and it was a global pandemic. Here, let me play this video. Look how long this line is. Look at this. Look at this. These are all people who have jobs. But now we're what? Over 1 million people furloughed because of the government shutdown? Because Trump and Republicans are demanding that the Obamacare subsidies get cut, meaning that healthcare premiums are going to double or triple or quadruple in some instances? I love this reaction here from this right-wing asshole. So, leading report says, breaking, USDA will not tap emergency funds for food stamps. 40 million set to lose aid next week per Axios. This jackass, Mark Lobliner, says, why the hell are we giving food stamps to 40 million people? Does anyone work anymore? The reason we're giving food stamps to 40 million people is because 40 million people live in poverty. And the answer to your question could have been fucking Googled when you asked, does anybody work anymore? Yes, dipshit. The majority of the people in the food stamp program, the SNAP program, work. 62% of them, in fact, work. But we live in a dumbass, hyper-capitalist, exploitative country that says even if you work a full-time job, we're not going to give you enough money to survive, and you're on your fucking own. And that's where the social safety net programs kick in. In fact, companies like Walmart know what they're doing. They are purposely underpaying their workers and basically forcing them to go get Medicaid and forcing them to go get SNAP. So the actual problem here is capitalism. The actual problem here, it's the billionaire class. It's the CEOs. It's these exploitative assholes who are working on their third mansion and their third fucking yacht at the same time that their workers can't afford to feed their goddamn kids. And as I said, 40% of the people on the SNAP program are children. 62% of the people in the SNAP program have jobs. It just so happens that we don't value work in this country. They make it seem like, oh, all these people are fucking lazy. That's the problem. No, they're not. The problem is the system is broken and you're too much of a dipshit to realize that. This is the problem with conservatives. They always default to like, it's always got to be like a personal, individual moral failing. It can never be a wider systemic problem, even though it is objectively the case that most of the problems we're dealing with are wider systemic problems. But some more information for you here. Take a look at this chart. Would you look at what was happening with retail prices until a certain point in about January? Wow. What was it that occurred in January which could have reversed the downturn, the reduction of retail prices? It's almost like that's when Trump took office. It's almost like that's when he went all in on tariffs. And now the prices have skyrocketed. And the inflation is at a record high. And by the way, shame on the media for not talking about this as much as it deserves to be talked about. Because I remember when Biden was president, one of their main narratives was inflation, inflation, inflation. And then now that Trump is president, nobody talks about inflation, even though Trump's inflation is worse. So just absolute shame on not only the media, but also the Democrats for not talking about this. The Republicans for being disgusting, decrepit liars and bending the knee to Trump, even when he's objectively destroying our economy and the country. But this is just completely and utterly unsustainable here, man. This is what we're dealing with. This is completely and utterly unsustainable. And I would hope that the red states are smart enough to realize that, look, you're not protected from this man's horrible decision making. You're not protected from his corruption. Have they not stopped and thought for a second? Well, hold on now. We have tens of thousands of farmers going bankrupt. And Trump just gave $40 billion to Javier Milei in Argentina after he crashed his economy and destroyed his country. And by the way, there was elections the other day there. It turns out that Trump extorting these people and coercing these people and threatening these people and giving $40 billion to Milei at a last-minute bailout, it turns out that actually effectively rigged the election and made it so Milei's party stayed in power, even though they fucking destroyed Argentina. So, but this is where we're at. You have 77 beef farmers in the U.S. go bankrupt every single day. Meanwhile, Trump says, we're going to buy beef from Argentina. Excuse you? What about the 77 American farmers? What about them that are going bankrupt every day? What about them? What about the soybean farmers who you fucking destroyed and now made it so that China used to have contracts with these people? Now the Chinese are going to Argentina to get their soybeans. So they double fuck us, triple fuck us. Trump double fucks us, triple fucks us by, screwing over the farmers and then also shaking you down for your tax money and giving it to Argentina. Trump's fucking building a massive Great Gatsby ass, Marie Antoinette ass ballroom at the same time that now people are starving in the country he's supposed to be the president of. What a sick, sick thing, bro. What a sick thing we're witnessing. And I think it's time, if they haven't woken up yet, I don't know if they're going to wake up. But certainly everybody with a functioning brain by this point has woken up, which is why his approval rating has plummeted. But it's got to go even lower. Because what we're looking at here is, honestly, historically evil and atrocious. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.